The U.S. military has a serious recruiting and retention problem, but what's really the cause and what effect will it have on the military's ability to execute a wartime footing? Hi folks, and welcome back to the Storm and Cellar. Today we'll take a look at a recent ABC article which they lay out the viability of an all-volunteer military, or the lack thereof. Are they and the current U.S. leadership correct, or just burying their heads in the sand for the real causes for recruiting and retention? Pentagon data shows that more young Americans are either unqualified or just don't want to join for various reasons. So let's break this down in the article. Military leadership says the competitive job market is playing a large role in young folks not joining. Okay? The job market is gradually increasing and companies are paying $16 an hour, but the government has spent the last 15 years encouraging young people to sponge off their parents as long as they can and that somebody owes them something. So the DOD's Gilbert Seneris told the Armed Services Committee they're in a fierce competition with the labor market for skilled, relevant, and innovative talent. Well, high schools have not been recommending a trade for kids, for many kids. They're insistently encouraging every graduate to go to college for indoctrination and to get worthless degrees that don't transfer well in the civilian market. So my question is, where are most of these young people getting these awesome skill sets with a long-term future that makes the civilian market so competitive? A former senior military official told ABC News that today's recruiters face a great challenge in pitching the benefits of enlisting to young people. The private companies using impressive incentives to entice prospects, such as something akin to the GI Bill. I somewhat agree with this. However, some companies do and some companies don't give money for college. And still, there's always restrictions to civilian companies' benevolence. Even the Marine Corps, which doesn't usually struggle to find recruits, is under pressure to meet its goals. Marine Lieutenant General David Ottington said in a recent testimony at the Senate hearing in April, in addition to COVID-19 and the growing disconnect and declining favorable view between the U.S. population and traditional institutions, labor shortages, high inflation, and population of youth, who do not see the value of military service, also continues to strain recruiting efforts and place the Marine Corps accession mission at risk. Okay, you think? And whose fault is that? Civics is no longer taught in school. Traditional values are thwarted throughout American media, and American institutions have been infiltrated with socialist doctrine. The education system, news outlets, professional athletics, and Hollywood constantly beat anti-American sentiment into the heads of America's youth. Recently, the women's soccer team was beaten in the first round against Sweden, I believe it was. Americans cheered because of the U.S. team's anti-American stance. That wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. America is divided. According to Defense Department polling data shared with ABC News, only 9% of young people now show a propensity to serve. It's the lowest number seen in 15 years. Of course, no one wants to join an organization that politically leaves troops in Afghanistan and implements socialist ideologies such as DEI and wokeism. Top reasons cited for not wanting to join are the possibility of injury of death, and fear of developing PTSD or other psychological problems. So what's the difference between kids today and kids 10 to 20 years ago? In the day, kids played Army in the backyard with the neighborhood friends. They played with their GI Joes. They watched war movies. Now if a kid so much as holds their finger out like a gun, they'll be suspended from school. Societal changes are making kids both weak physically and emotionally. According to DOD, the pool of young people who meet the basic standards to enlist in the military is also shrinking. Only 23% of Americans aged 17 to 24 are eligible to join without being granted a waiver. This is down from 29% in recent years. Obesity and drug use are common disqualifying factors. Now, I have to blame obesity and drugs on many of the parents out there. Parents are too quick to pump their kids full of drugs and let them lay around the house constantly living on their phones or computers. In fact, the Army has supposedly stopped making new recruits run for the first couple of weeks of basic training until they can teach them how to run. They've given them Ensure, something old people drink, to help them build their bone density. Somebody help me here. What the hell has America done to our kids? Parents, get your kids' asses off the sofa and get them out playing and exercising. Get them in any sports, any kind of sports. A second former senior military official told ABC News the problem is worse than the general public realizes, and I believe they are correct. Fortunately, the Army recently removed the offer of limited eligibility for applicants who don't have a GED or high school diploma to enlist in the regular Army. I'll bet it's still on the table for future use. This tells me that the U.S. Army is a lost soul and they're out groping for any solution. My thoughts on this proposal is that there are folks for some unforeseen circumstances who may have dropped out of high school, but regardless of someone's IQ, quitting high school or anything else shows a sign of poor commitment. So what happens when they quit on you in combat or decide to waltz over into North Korea or perhaps leave your post and go join the Taliban, resulting in the deaths of other soldiers out there looking for you? That former senior defense official painted a grim picture for the military as a whole, citing the viability of all volunteer force. A second former senior military official said the recruiting problem is a sign of wider societal problems. It's a reflection on our country. Okay, here's where I think they're partially wrong. Although America is divided, the majority of folks who join the military are conservative, Southern, Midwestern, and Southwestern guys and gals who have been brought up with the love of country. Unfortunately, the military services are directing their recruiting efforts at people of color in the inner cities and LGBT crowd. Sorry, this is not going to solve your problem. You might get a small segment of that population to join the military, but you severely excluded a larger part of America that you have always counted on. The Chief of Staff of the Air Force was quoted as saying he would like to see the white male as the minority in the United States Air Force. Hey folks, reality check here. Whites make up 71% of the population. In addition, a huge part of those who join the military are dependents of military personnel. Guess who's not recommending their kids to join the military? Yep, military parents. Military personnel and families are used to hardships, but yet they still loved America and continue to serve. So the problem has to be elsewhere, right? Look, the woke and DEI training and divisive direction the military has taken is disastrous. Replacing valuable warrior training with woke indoctrination and discouraging regular folks from joining the services is counterintuitive to a successful recruiting plan. The group that's pro-military and pro-American are turning their backs on serving in this terribly broken environment. Seemingly, many politicians in general seem to care less about their part in destroying the military. With Russia and China gearing up for a fight, the U.S. is seeking the wrong answers to the problems of fielding an effective military to counter a potential enemy. Sadly, the all-volunteer military is on its last leg. If war comes with China or Russia, count on your sons and daughters being drafted into the military. Other than fixing the true problems of military recruiting and fixing the retention problem, both of which is apparently not going to happen anytime soon, the draft will be the only answer. So what do y'all think? Give me your ideas and let me know by leaving your comments down below. Remember, if you like these videos, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends and enemies. I'll guarantee China and Russia is watching them. So until next time, make sure your takeoff and landings equal.